Hey, it's Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and welcome back to another video where I go over the top 5 comic books that I wouldn't buy this week. Before I get going on the picks, I just want to say real quick, thank you so much for all the support. I'm getting super close to 1,000 subscribers, and that's really awesome. That's a cool milestone. And I just want to say that I appreciate those of you that have taken the time to subscribe to the channel. That's really awesome. Just the fact that almost 1,000 of you are willing to do that is just really awesome, and I really appreciate that. Okay, let's start with pick number 5. Pick number 5 is the Suicide Squad AMC edition number 1. Now, this is just a reprint of the earlier 2014 Suicide Squad number 1. Promotional comics, especially movie comics, just never do very well. I don't think there's any reason to go chase this comic down. If you got one because you went to the movie theater to go watch this film, that's really cool. If you're looking for it for some kind of sentimental reasons, like you're a huge Suicide Squad fan, that makes a lot of sense. But to go seek it out for spec value, I have no idea why this comic would ever be worth anything. I thought it was an enjoyable enough movie, but it's just not a big financial success, and it's kind of already made headlines for being kind of a flop. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that a lot of people streamed it at home, but still, why would anybody ever be looking for this comic a year, 5 years down the road? If people don't hold on to them, I just see it ending up in dollar bins. All right, my pick for number 4 is Tales of Suspense 77, the first appearance of Peggy Carter. This is one of those picks where I have to straight up say this is an amazing comic book. I think it would be a fantastic comic book to own, or if you find it for a great price, you should still pick it up. But right now the prices are high because the first appearance of Peggy Carter coincides with the launch of the What If Disney Plus series. She appears in the first episode. I mean, that's not a surprise, right? We saw her in the trailer as Captain Carter, and because of that, this comic book is seeing a bump, which makes perfect sense. But it's not the time to buy this comic book. Like a lot of times where the character's really popular, this is a good time to sell the comic book or to start looking for it for, if you find it at a garage sale or an estate sale or an antique store or just undervalued at some comic shop. Yeah, it's still a great comic book to buy, but I wouldn't seek it out at its current FMV. It's just not the right time to buy. Okay, quick spoilers for What If's episode number 1. I'm going to talk about the ending of the episode, so keep that in mind. The saving grace for this comic book is that it kind of seemed like they were setting up Captain Carter to make a future appearance in like a spin-off or another episode or something like that, because they didn't leave that timeline basically intact, where she gets moved to the future to the events of kind of the first Avengers film in the MCU. So there's definitely some potential that this character will be sticking around. And again, this is a fantastic character and a fantastic comic book. It's a good comic book to own. I just wouldn't buy it this week. All right, number 3 on the list, Marvel Team Up number 5. This is the version that had Captain Marvel Carol Danvers and Miss Marvel Kamala Khan on the cover back to back. And it's a fine comic book. If you can find this for cheap, I would still get it. But I don't see the spec value for this. It's just kind of a cool cover. Yes, we do have the Marvels show coming up that will feature both characters. Kamala Khan is obviously really popular, and she's gonna have her own series too with the Miss Marvel series. But I don't see this comic book, it might spike at some point, but I don't see long-term value for this comic book. If you can find it at a dollar bin kind of price, there's no harm in picking it up, of course. But I just don't think I'm going to be expecting this thing to pay dividends in a big way down the road, and certainly not for long-term value. Number 2 on the list, a ratio variant. This is the Miles Morales Marvel Tales number 1 Sway 1 in 50 variant. It's a really cool cover, but there's like a million really cool Miles Morales covers. It's also 1 in 50, so the price already seems high. But you got to remember, of course, the comic book price is going to be inflated a little bit because people had to buy 50 copies of the other regular comic just to get this one variant, this ratio. So that's why I don't really think this is necessarily a great comic to invest in. It is a really cool cover, no denying that. There's just already so many great variant covers out there, and I guess there's room for one more. That's possible. Only time will tell, but my gut says I'm going to pass on this one. All right, and number 1 on my list for comic books not to buy this week is Superman number 4. This is the first appearance of Bloodsport. And of course, Suicide Squad, the James Gunn version, just came out last week. If you're watching this video when it aired, Bloodsport was in it. Idris Elba played Bloodsport. He actually did a really good job in the movie, but I would not seek this one out at current FMV just based on the fact that the movie's out. Bloodsport had his chance to shine. Now everybody's, maybe excited about that character in their future. The prices are going to be elevated, but they're certainly going to go down again as this project gets more and more in the rearview mirror. Okay, spoilers for Suicide Squad. You've been warned. Some more spoiler warnings here. Bloodsport does live at the end of Suicide Squad. He's one of the few people that make it out in the end. So because of that, there is a chance that we'll see Bloodsport spin off into future projects. I'm sure people would love to see him reprise that role. I think he definitely did a great job in the film. However, I just don't think it's the right time to buy this comic book. When comic books are really hot, it's a good time to sell them. When they cool off a little bit, it's the right time to buy them. And there's no way this comic book won't cool off between now and whatever imaginary project that Idris Elba might be part of as Bloodsport in the future. So the last thing I'll say, I'm not being negative about these comic books. Some of these are fantastic comic books. They're cool comic books to own. I'm just saying that with all the FOMO happening and all the lists driving up prices out there, that sometimes it's a good idea to pump the brakes and wait to buy these comic books unless you find a smoking deal. I've bought hot comic books at the wrong time to buy them before because the price was right. And if you find those comic books in that situation, by all means, pick them up. Basically, I just like to play devil's advocate to some of these top 10 lists that are out there. I think there's, by the way, when I scour these lists, a lot of the comic books on them are good comic books to own. They're fantastic first appearances. There's good spec value. They're comic books that I wish I owned. So there's usually not something wrong with them. There's just a few that stick out to me every week where I'm like, really? Why would you hunt that comic book down right now? Hopefully you enjoyed this list. I'm curious to see in the comments down below what comic books are you avoiding this week and what comic books are you going after? And I also love to hear if you disagree with any of my picks. By all means, it's the internet. Everybody has their own opinion, and I'd love to hear yours down below. If you enjoy these videos and you like what I'm doing, I don't ask you to like and subscribe, but if you would share this video with your friends in the comic book community, I would appreciate that. It helps me out quite a bit. And I enjoyed all the positive comments I got after the last couple of videos. I'll definitely keep doing these as long as people want to keep watching them. Thank you guys so much. And I want to remind you, as always, hey. Read comics every day.